The sequester will weaken America's economic recovery. It will weaken our military readiness. Across the country, these cuts will force federal prosecutors to close cases and potentially let criminals go. Air traffic controllers and airport security will see cutbacks, and that could cause delays at airports across the country. Border Patrol agents will see their hours reduced. FBI agents will be furloughed. Federal prosecutors will have to close cases and let criminals go. This is not an abstraction. People will lose their jobs. This is not a cliff, but it is a tumble downward. It's conceivable that in the first week, the first 2 weeks, first 3 weeks, first month, a lot of people may not notice the full impact of this sequester. But this is going to be a big hit on the economy.
But in the context of, I guess, what I'm going at the panel here, Charles, is the credibility issue and how much that hurts the administration in the big picture in all of this.
Well, they know that they really overshot, and it was the president himself. He could have had surrogates out there, but the only thing he left out of his litany of catastrophe was pestilence, earthquake, brimstone, and plague. I mean, it's actually hilarious that he goes through all of this. And now all of a sudden, having discovered that the Republicans are not going to budge and that he hasn't won the propaganda war, all of a sudden it's a tumble down, it's not a cliff. And it is a tumble down, and I think the Republicans have to be armed. I think they have the upper hand today because of the scare tactics. But if they want to stay ahead of the game, they got to do two things. They have to emphasize that they are offering the president authority over how the spending cuts are done. The Senate has rejected it. The president has said he would not accept it. He'd exercise a veto. They have to explain. If the president says we had to do X and we had to cut TSA and we had to curtail meat inspection, they have to say every day, we have offered the president utter discretion on how to spend the money, and he chooses that it should be the meat inspection and not the consultants and the wasteful meetings that they have in expensive hotels. And secondly, the Republicans ought to highlight every day all of these useless, obsolete, or idiotic stuff happening in the federal government. It isn't hard to find. Every year, Senator Coburn compiles a list of all this waste and stuff. It's all out there. What you do is an example a day, every day, and say to the administration, why didn't you cut X, which is laughable, and instead you cut police or teachers?
Well, veteran journalist Bob Woodward says that the White House was really badgering him over his comments about the sequester. Here's what he told CNN about an email that he received. It was said very clearly that you will regret doing this. It makes me feel very uncomfortable to have the White House telling reporters you're going to regret doing something that you believe in. Here's the email from Gene Sperling, quote, I do truly believe you should rethink your comment about saying that President of the United States, POTUS, asking for revenues is moving the goalpost. I know you may not believe this, but as a friend, I think you will regret staking out that claim. Charles, your thoughts?
Look, I respect Woodward. I think he's right on the origins of the sequester and on Obama changing the terms by including tax hikes. But when you look at the memo, when you just look at it in isolation, I don't see it as a threat for two reasons. Number one, after he says you will regret, he goes on sentence after sentence explaining that what he means is you will regret it because I think your facts are wrong in this instance. But the most telling aspect of this is Woodward's email response, which is a warm and polite, friendly response in which there is no anger, there's no umbrage. Look, if you or I were threatened, we would start our email by saying, how dare you, USOB. Now, this is not to say that the administration hasn't intimidated or threatened others. We heard from Lanny Davis.
Yeah, let's listen to that. He was on a radio show, WMAL, in which he talked about actually an instance in which this White House reached out.
The word I was told was the word threatened by this editor, that if he continued to run my columns, he would lose, or his reporters would lose, their White House credentials. Now, that is unfortunate. It is an intemperate person.
Of course, Lanny Davis is a former White House counsel for Bill Clinton, a Democrat.
If true, it's a threat. Ron Fournier of National Journal spoke today. He wrote a column about an attempt at intimidation. We all know at Fox how the administration has attempted intimidation, a way to marginalize Fox. And I myself was the subject of a volcanic attack by the chief of communications of the White House, accusing me of issuing a false statement about Obama, for which Dan Pfeiffer had to issue a public retraction and apology. So
that was classic, by the way,
but
involving the Churchill statue.
So what I'm
Do you remember that one? I mean, I want to go back to that, but go ahead, continue.
I'd love to wallow in it
rewind
for 15
that tape.
or 20 minutes. That'd be a lot of fun. The point is, I don't think this is an instance of the obvious thuggery of this administration in dealing with other journalists.
This has been a Sunfish production.